Welcome back to BikeRide.com. I'm your host Scott, and today we're going to be getting out on another e-bike to showcase its benefits and its flaws. We're going to empower your purchasing decisions with some real-life data from our standardized tests. Today we have the SN100 from Vtuvia with us in the testing facility, and we're going to see just how fast the bike will accelerate, climb hills, handle off-road terrain, and stop. We have a ton of great info coming up, so stay tuned. And you're not going to want to miss our pro and con section, where we get honest about how this ride really performs. Now, if you're in a rush, try using our handy chapter timestamps in the description or in the video timeline to skip ahead to the info that you want to know. You know that we love to bring you the best and the worst attributes of every bike that we test here at BikeRide.com. So let's get started. So what is the Vtuvia SN100? Well, this is our first bike from Vtuvia to undergo BikeRide.com testing. And Vtuvia is a brand with a fairly large catalog of bikes, including commuters, folding e-bikes, off-road bikes, and some cool dual battery options. The SN100 is an off-road e-bike which is complete with fat tires and a 750 watt motor, which is meant for exploring the unpaved regions of your local trail network and wilderness. Vtuvia offers a front suspension fork, robust frame, and a 14 amp hour battery to keep you exploring. Now the SN100 has received a nice upgrade. It also includes a torque sensor, front and rear fenders, and a rear rack right out of the box. But you're going to notice that our test model does not have the fenders and rear rack. That's because we received this bike before the new upgraded SN100 model was released. So we're going to be dealing with the bike in its previous build for our tests. The SN100 has a robust aluminum frame and 120mm fork, which is a longer travel fork than many e-bikes have in this price range. At the time of the review, it was selling for a little less than $2,000 US. The bike ships as a high-speed Class 3 e-bike, able to accelerate up to 28 miles per hour using the 750 watt rear hub motor with its throttle assist and 5-level pedal assist. Our first pro for this bike is the motor and acceleration. The motor and the controller on the SN100 result in smooth acceleration, which was definitely an enjoyable aspect of the bike. The motor has reasonable power, but it doesn't engage in such a way that it's jerky or torque heavy. This would definitely be appreciated by many riders who find fast acceleration and jerky operation disconcerting. It's also a good fit for looser terrain, where it's easier to slip out. It also was a welcome feature while engaging the motor during turns and on tighter trails. So the reliable acceleration is definitely confidence-inspiring, and it was pleasant to use while riding off-road terrain. The smooth acceleration and fat tires could also make this bike a good option for slippery conditions such as snow and mud, since the low torque acceleration and wide tires would combine for good traction in slippery conditions. Our second pro is the comfortable ride quality. The SN100 has a comfortable ride quality, mainly due to the flex-free frame and those large tires. The weight and stiffness of the frame really make it comfortable and capable while riding over rougher off-road terrain. Even though it has a lack of suspension, which is a little bit limiting for more intense situations, it's just fine for recreational off-road riding, because the bike is definitely confident and comfortable. I appreciated the robust frame and large tires, which were pleasant additions to the bike, improving its ride quality on loose gravel. The wheels offered reasonable traction in most situations, despite a bit of flighty response while turning over looser gravel or looser surfaces. Bringing down the tire pressure from the recommended 30 psi definitely improved ride quality. I was riding with it around 20. It also improved the ability for the bike to absorb minor bumps and dips in the trail. But if you're riding on pavement, bring it back up to that 30 psi for less roll resistance. Our first con for the Vtuvia SN100 was the seat post and the bike size. Now the Vtuvia has an interesting size and geometry. The bike really seemed well sized for my height at first sight, But after adjusting the seat and swinging a leg over the frame, I found that the pedal position was not optimal for me. Despite the bike being tall enough from a standover height perspective, the short seat post and stack measurement of the bike resulted in a bad pedal position for me. I could not find enough room for my legs to reach the full pedal extension that I would like for comfort. If the seat post had a couple more inches of adjustment, I could have found a good position, but it was a bit short in its current form. Now on the flip side of this, when a shorter 5'3" rider attempted to mount the bike, they found that the bike's frame size and standover height was too tall for them, not allowing them to comfortably mount and ride the bike. The frame and the wheels both just felt too tall for a smaller rider. So it's really a strange mix for this bike. The frame and seat post are both too small for taller riders, and the bike is too large for shorter riders, despite them being able to find a comfortable pedal position once they've managed to get on the tall bike. Our second con for the bike was the fact that my foot kept striking the kickstand and the chainstay during use. I found it was really easy to hit the kickstand with my foot as I pedaled, and the kickstand definitely gets in the way of your pedal stroke, requiring some care to ensure that you're not hitting your foot or getting stuck as you pedal down the road. Even when another rider with smaller feet attempted to ride the bike, they found it really easy to hit either the kickstand or that rear chainstay while you're pedaling, which definitely results in an impact, or the worst case is your foot getting stuck under that chainstay as you're going. This was a minor annoyance, mostly impacting your shoe, but it's something that can't really be corrected unless you remove the kickstand entirely. And the chainstay is going to impact you regardless as a part of that frame. The third and final con for the bike was the fact that we had some fluctuation in that battery level as we were riding. It fluctuated fairly dramatically, dipping from 100% down to 76% after only a minute or two of power being applied. Like other bikes that have this issue, letting off the throttle or reducing pedaling allowed the bike to jump back up to that higher battery level. But this consistent back and forth with the battery meant it was very hard to determine how much range you actually had left. For example, after only 8 miles, I was hitting 40% or lower on the battery meter. Yet the bike still managed to pump out another 13 plus miles despite this low battery level at max assist. Towards the end of the ride, the bike seemed to settle in at about 10% battery, but I could feel the bike slowly reduce power as I went lower, even though the display continued to show 10%. So the battery level is rather inconsistent, which was definitely a source of frustration for me throughout the ride, making it very hard to determine how much I actually had left in the tank using that battery percentage alone. So what does it do best? Well, the Vtuvia SN100 is well suited to its off-road classification. Its high-powered 750 watt rear hub motor can power the bike up to 28 miles per hour with the pedal assist or the throttle. And despite its high wattage, the controller is well paired with the bike and it controls the acceleration well. It has a smooth and measured acceleration, which is enjoyable and confidence-inspiring. It did a good job maintaining traction while it accelerated, which makes me really interested to see how this bike would perform in a more slippery environment like snow, where that measured acceleration would be perfectly suited. The Vtuvia SN100 provides a good level of performance across the board, with pleasant motor performance, as well as a fairly responsive cadence sensor on the unit that we're testing. The upgraded torque sensor on the new SN100 model, which is currently for sale, would be a great addition for a bike that shows good motor response already in its base condition. The SN100 also has a nicely built frame, which feels robust and capable. It offers a higher weight limit for riders and cargo with 350 pounds of limit, which is great for the larger bike, and it makes it suited to carrying extra gear for hunting. Finally, the bike is well suited to its large 4-inch tires, which do a good job smoothing out the ride and offering good traction and float off-road. I enjoyed the ride on the Kenda tires, and I find them to be well matched for the bike. The only time that they felt less confident was when you were initiating a turn, which could make the tires feel slightly loose, flighty, or drifty over looser terrain like gravel. So what are some reasons to look elsewhere? The SN100 was far from a perfect bike, and a few of its attributes were undesirable when you were out riding. The most obvious for me was the bike's sizing and its seat post length. I was honestly surprised by how short the seat post was, and it kept me from finding the right leg position for pedaling. I was also interested to see that the high standover height of the unit was definitely limiting for shorter riders, not allowing them to get onto the bike effectively, despite the fact that a shorter rider could find a good pedal position when they were seated on the bike. The standover height was just too high, making mounting and dismounting a definite challenge for shorter riders, and it could also result in a painful experience after hitting the top tube during a fast dismount. Alongside some awkward sizing, I found that the chainstays on the bike seemed to flare outward, which could allow you to hit them with your feet and legs while you're pedaling. The kickstand mount was also an issue for the same reason, as it caught my foot multiple times while I was out pedaling. And finally, the 14 to 28 tooth tourney setup on this bike was also a bit lacking, making it challenging to hit the 28 mph speed limit comfortably. This resulted in a little bit of ghost pedaling when you were exceeding 20 mph. This was most obvious in the highest assist level as you struggled to maintain pace with the motor at high speed. Next, looking at the frame and geometry. The SN100 has a well-built frame. As I said before, it's robust and it has some good-looking welds, and it offers no noticeable flex during use. The seating position can be adapted slightly thanks to an adjustable stem, which offers approximately 60 degrees of angle adjustment. The bike has a large frame, but the bottom bracket and the pedals are also set higher than on other bikes, which means that while the bike has a fairly high standover height, its stack is only 20 inches. This stack measurement, combined with a short seat post, left me feeling cramped on the bike. I would have liked to see a few more inches of adjustment in that seat post, as this would have helped me to ensure that I could find a comfy pedal position on the bike. The high standover height also made the bike unsuitable for shorter riders, coming in with a minimum recommended height of 5 feet 8 inches. The maximum recommended height of 6 feet 5 inches also seemed exaggerated. I felt that I was already at the limit of the bike's abilities at 6 feet tall. So the SN100 seems to be meant specifically for taller riders, as it doesn't offer any frame options or step-through options. Another frame issue is associated with the left side chainstay and kickstand mount, which could both get in your way as you pedaled the bike. I struck my heel on the frame and mount many times while riding, which forced me to consciously keep my foot angled to ensure that I didn't hit anything while I was out pedaling. This was an issue that I didn't appreciate about the bike, and users with smaller feet may not notice the same issue as much. The bike uses a 120mm coil suspension fork from Mazo, which has a lockout and preload adjustment. The fork is a budget option, but its 120mm travel offers enough suspension to increase ride quality. So our test model didn't come with fenders or a rear rack, but it does have attachment points for these items built into the frame. And the new version of the SN100, which was recently upgraded, offers the rear rack and fenders at no additional charge. Looking at the measurements on the bike, we have a seat tube measurement of 19 inches, a reach measurement of 18 inches, stack measurement of 20 inches, a standover height of 31 inches, a virtual top tube length of 22.5 inches, with a minimum saddle height of 33 inches, and a max saddle height of 39 inches. We have a wheelbase of 47 inches. And the recommended rider height from Vtuvia is 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet 5 inches. Next, taking a look at the display and control of the bike. We have a 3-inch color LCD, which offers the typical control from its 4-button control pad. Pressing and holding the power button is going to turn the bike on and off. The up and down buttons control the pedal assist levels and will move through options in the menu. And the mode button will change the display information with a single click, cycling through your current speed, average speed, and max speed. Pressing and holding the up button is going to turn the lights on or off, and holding the down button is going to turn on the walk mode, moving the bike at a slow speed. Now, if you press and hold the menu button, you're going to turn on the USB port, which is located on the display, or turn it off for charging. The port is protected by a rubber stopper. To reset the bike's trip information, hold the up and down buttons together simultaneously until those numbers reset. And finally, to access the advanced options for the display, you double-click the menu button, which allows you to access 6 different advanced settings for the bike. The display is a fine companion for the bike with all the typical features. It does have a little bit less information than some other displays, as it only has the single trip tracker and no estimated range or other trackers for items like calories or time. The bike does not need a key to operate, and it does not feature any kind of locking mechanism for the bike or the display. This means that removing the battery is going to be the best way to ensure that someone can't turn the bike on when it's parked. The motor on the Vtuvia SN100 was a capable performer, which offered enjoyable acceleration and performance with its controller. The bike was measured and smooth to accelerate with no jerking felt during operation. And the test model that we have uses a cadence sensor. The new upgraded model of the SN100, which is available for purchase now, includes a torque sensor, which would be a worthy upgrade for the off-road bike. Now, the motor has a nominal output of 750 watts and an 80 Newton meter torque at max output. It's branded with the Vtuvia logo and offers stats similar to the Bafang 750 watt motor. It also has a pretty typical noise level, which could be associated with any rear hub motor, with a consistent whine that was louder when it was under strain or as you climbed a hill. The bike performed fairly well in our hill climbs, coming in with times that were typical or slightly lower than other bikes with similar motor setups. And the bike also performed especially well in our 0 to 20 tests, where it managed to put down a 9-second time in both tests. This smooth and quick acceleration while using either the throttle or the pedal assist was one of my favorite features of the bike. So we got a 9-second time for both the throttle and pedal assist in our 0 to 20, as well as a time of 2 minutes and 47 seconds on our small hill climb with a 21.4 mile/hour average. And we got a time of 2 minutes and 49 seconds with a 13.7 mile/hour average on our medium hill climb. The SN100 uses a 48 volt, 14 amp hour, which is a 672 watt hour battery. This battery is UL 2849 certified on the new version, and it's available for purchase now. The battery is a little bit smaller than we'd normally see on an e-bike designed for hunting and off-road use. I typically like to see motors with a watt-hour rating equivalent or higher than the nominal wattage of the motor. This ensures that it can power the unit at maximum output for over an hour. A range test of only 23 miles reflected this smaller battery size while we were using the highest assist level. The highest assist level attempts to maintain 28 miles/hour during use, and this was a big reason why the battery drained so quickly. So our first range test was completed in pedal assist level 5, and we managed to go 22.65 miles with 958 feet of elevation over 1 hour 21 minutes with an average speed of 16.6 miles/hour. And this range was at max assist was typical or a little bit lower than the average distance which is completed by similar bikes at this speed. Now you can definitely extend this range. When we tried using power assist level 3, I managed to travel over 37 miles, maintaining a pace of approximately 15 miles/hour. The results of our second range test were 37.73 miles with 1,302 feet of elevation gain over 2 hours and 27 minutes with an average speed of 14.5 miles/hour. Although the battery is externally mounted to the bike's frame, it is well integrated into the unit and it's securely held in place. The battery is easy to remove and install on the bike. First, you insert and turn the key into the key slot, which is located on the up or down tube. The battery then pops out to the side for removal. It's removed from the bike to the side, which is a great feature given the tight confines of the frame. The removal is very simple, and installation is almost as simple. The hardest part is lining up the battery connections and that little locking tab at the bottom. After you get this all lined up, you can simply slide the battery in sideways until it locks into position with a click. The bike uses a 54.6 volt, 2 amp output standard charger for replenishing the battery. And this charger is plugged into the same slot on the left side of the battery, whether you're charging with the unit installed on the bike or charging it off the bike. The total charge time to replenish a discharged battery for this unit was 6 to 7 hours. Next, taking a look at the drivetrain. The drivetrain on the SN100 was a little bit underwhelming. It featured primarily budget components, such as that 7-speed TX50 overhand shifter, which was combined with a 14 to 28 tooth Shimano 7-speed freewheel, and the tourney rear derailleur. This is probably one of the lowest cost drivetrains available for these bikes, and it doesn't showcase an inspiring performance. But it is just fine for general recreational riding, staying in tune with a little bit of light maintenance. The bike's top speed of 28 miles per hour did seem slightly high for the 14 to 28 tooth gearing, and this meant that you needed to pedal quickly to get up to speed. I felt that the bike was not properly tuned to maintain this high top speed, and it resulted in some ghost pedaling, leading to discomfort over a long ride. The SN100 uses Logan hydraulic disc brakes with 160mm rotors. These brakes are less expensive than Tektro or Shimano, and they do feel a little bit less powerful during use. The brakes are a dual piston hydraulic caliper, and they have aluminum levers that also feature a reach adjustment. The brakes performed fairly well in our tests despite feeling underpowered, and resulted in a stopping distance of just 19 feet. This was a good stopping distance, which is well positioned among recent competitors. So considering the fact that the brakes felt less powerful than others during the tests, I was definitely expecting a worse result. Now, I would be happier to see a set of 180mm rotors on the bike rather than the 160s that they have. That would help to shed heat during repeated braking or if you were doing longer descents. The SN100 rides on a set of 26 by 4-inch Kenda tires with aluminum rims. The tires have reflective halos on both sides for visibility, as well as 3mm puncture protection to ensure that you keep rolling without annoying flats. We've seen the same fat tires on other units in the past, and they allow you to dial in your air pressure to suit your riding situation from that recommended 30 psi. You can increase the air pressure for less roll resistance on hard surfaces, or reduce the air pressure to increase cushioning and surface area for more traction. The tires do seem to lose some performance in loose terrain, especially while you're cornering, and the bike can begin to feel flighty and like it wants to slide out while you're cornering. This could be partially due to the bike's seating position, which brings you forward over the front wheel, and the tires and rims are not tubeless ready. The Vtuvia that we received was lacking accessories in its stock form, but it seems that Vtuvia realized this and they've upgraded the new offering of the SN100, which now includes a rear rack as well as fenders for both the front and rear tire. These are a set of pleasant upgrades that definitely increase the bike's performance and abilities. And the bike has attachment points built into its frame for all of these accessories. The bike also has a built-in LED headlight, which is a bit of an interesting feature that I'm not completely sold on. The light is affixed to the bike's head tube, and this means it's not going to turn with the fork as most externally mounted headlights do for e-bikes. Instead, the light is always pointed in the direction that the bike is traveling. The light was also dimmer than other LED lights I've used, but it was still bright enough to increase visibility and sight in dark situations, just not as bright as some of the better lights we've used. The kickstand we have is a single-sided kickstand, which did not have any issues during testing. And finally, looking at the touch points, starting off with the grips, we have a set of lock-on rubber grips on the SN100, which were firm and confident underhand while we tested them, with no ability to move on the bars. And the saddle is a Velo D2 Comfort saddle, which is more of a sport style saddle, but it still has good cushioning. The saddle was comfortable, and it didn't offer any issues during our test rides, even when we were exceeding 30 miles in a single ride. The bike features a set of aluminum platform pedals, which have small aluminum pegs for traction. They're similar to most pedals that we find on e-bike stock and are similar to a set of the Wellgo platform pedals, so they're just fine to get you out riding. The Vtuvia is an interesting hardtail off-road e-bike. It definitely has some great attributes, like its measured acceleration and that high top speed. However, it also has some less desirable attributes, such as the strange sizing and some lower end components like the brakes and the drivetrain. The robust frame and motor response definitely made up for these drawbacks, as the bike proved itself to be a fun ride for gravel and dirt roads. The bike is also capable on pavement, and it could be used as a recreational ride or maybe a commuter if you had those racks and fenders. But it is designed more for off-road fun and hunting, so it definitely sees better use off the beaten path. The latest version of this bike also has better accessories and a more responsive torque sensor, which replaced the cadence sensor that we see on our test unit, making it even more capable. So if you're looking for an off-road e-bike for recreation or some light hunting, the Vtuvia SN100 could be a good fit. Is this bike for you? Check out the detailed specs at bikeride.com and see user and expert reviews. You can also check out other great e-bikes and see them rated to find your perfect match. Do you have a question or something you want to say? Let me know in the comments and we'll start getting you some answers. So if you like this video, please give us a like and a subscribe so we can keep on bringing you the latest e-bike reviews and news. I'm Scott with bikeride.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy the ride.